33 on Thursday, March 3rd. I'd like to call this Caddo Parish Commission regular session to order. Mr. Clerk, could we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Hopkins.
Here.
Commissioner Johnson. Commissioner Jackson. Commissioner Young.
Here.
Commissioner Burrell.
Here.
Commissioner Jones.
Here.
Commissioner Gage Watts. Commissioner Taliaferro.
Here, sir.
Commissioner Atkins.
Here.
Commissioner Chavez.
Here, sir.
Commissioner Lazarus.
Here.
Commissioner Epperson.
Present.
All right, I'm counting 10 of 12 present. That is a quorum.
All right, thank you, Mr. Clerk. I haven't had a chance, but Commissioner Hopkins, would you be willing to lead us in an invocation? And Commissioner Burrell, would you be willing to lead us in the pledge?
I will, sir.
Please stand for the invocation.
Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this day. Go with us as we go through the business of the parish today. Help us as we make decisions for our districts, for our parish. Bless this state, bless this country. Put your loving hand on those in need of sickness, and bless those and keep those safe in the Ukraine. This we pray in your name, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Turn to the flag, please. First responders and military, give the appropriate salute, and all others a hand over your heart. Repeat after me.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Commissioner Hopkins, and thank you, Commissioner Burrell. And I may also say thank you, Commissioner Gage Watts. I understand you led to the Ukrainian ribbon, so thank you for that.
My pleasure, sir. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Clerk.
Okay, that brings us to agenda additions. And today, if y'all don't mind, it would be, I think, advisable if we add some items due to a computer glitch. We're going to have our program looked at tomorrow, but 2 different versions of the agenda printed online. And in an effort to make sure that we don't end up in any sort of violation of public noticing laws, it would be appropriate to add 2 items that did not show up on one version of the agenda to the agenda today so that everything is appropriately noticed. So those 2 items are items that you've heard before and were postponed in order to meet noticing requirements. And they are, they are a special hearing and final passage for ordinance number 6193. That is the TIF in North Caddo Parish. And so if it is amenable to the body, a motion to expand the agenda to include those would be appropriate.
Second.
All right, before we have those motions, I see Commissioner Epperson had a question.
I was going to make the motion to have those 2 items.
Well,
agenda addition.
Since you actually went up to the board, we'll put Commissioner Epperson made the motion. Commissioner Gage Watts did the second.
Thank you.
All right, so we have a motion and a second to expand the agenda. Let's have a vote on that, please.
You have to do a
Oh,
public
we
hearing.
need a public hearing first.
Oh, public hearing.
Yes, so
Before we
at this
expand the
point, you would open the public hearing if there's anyone for or against the expansion of the agenda to
Okay,
include.
so
these.
we heard the issues that the clerk raised regarding the posting on the electronic posting on our system. There's a challenge there, so we want to make sure to address that as to not have any issues with public meeting laws or proper notifications. So is there anyone we're opening up the floor to public hearing. Is there anyone in the chambers that is for or against or would like to speak to the opening up of the agenda? Seeing no one, I'll close public hearings, and now we'll have the vote on the motion. Please vote.
All right, that motion passes with 11 in support, none in opposition, and 1 absent. And that brings us to the next item on your agenda, which is citizens' comments. Citizens who wish to address the commission are asked to fill out a comment card in the lobby and submit it here in the box to either the clerk or to the president before the meeting. And we also have an online version where people are allowed to sign up before the meeting. and comments are limited to 3 minutes. As of this point in time, I have not received any requests for citizen comments.
Okay. Seeing no one moving towards you with the citizen's card, we will move on to visitors.
All right. So under visitors, you have 2 items today. The first item is a visitor, Miss Christina Anderson, who is with us today. She has a presentation on passenger rail, and she is making
Okay.
her way up now.
Miss Anderson, welcome. Thank you for
Thank you
coming.
so
I think
much.
Commissioner Burrell wanted to say a few words of introduction.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, Council, I'm very excited to introduce you to a fine lady, a friend that we've worked over since 2013, I believe it is.
I think
on
before that,
passenger
actually,
rail.
sir.
Well, even probably before that.
Yeah.
But worked on passenger rail for Louisiana, which we haven't had passenger rail to Shreveport since 1968. And Christina and her husband, Judge Anderson, they've been working very hard on this. And Christine is with what, Texas I-20 Corridor
The
Council?
I-20 Corridor Council, yes, sir.
Okay, and she will have a presentation for us.
Thank you. Thank
Very
you for
good.
coming, Miss Anderson.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that, Commissioners. Good afternoon. Like Commissioner Burrell said, I'm Christina Anderson, and I'm with the I-20 Corridor Council, and we appreciate the opportunity to tell you a little bit about the I-20 Corridor passenger rail route. Now, I don't have to probably say a lot to a lot of these people because a lot of you know about the I-20 Corridor because we've been working on this for about 15 years, and I will be telling you why today is an important day and different from times when we've met before. For those who might not be aware of it, the proposed I-20 corridor long-distance train between Dallas-Fort Worth and Atlanta through, as Commissioner Burrell said, through northern Louisiana, which, as we all know, does not have Amtrak service at this point. We've been working on this for about 15 years, but what's very significant about the presentation today is that you, I'm sure, are well aware that on November 15th, Congress and the President passed into law a Bipartisan Infrastructure and Investment and Jobs Act, IIJA. And we think this is the time to push our I-20 corridor over the goal line and make it a reality. Just to reference, for those who might not know, I'm from Marshall, in Marshall, Texas. That's why my husband and I got involved in this, because where we live, the Texas Eagle turns north and goes to Chicago. And so we always kind of joke that if you ever want to go to New York City from the Arklatex, you have to go to Chicago north and turn right. What we're trying to do is change all that, just like we're going to change, we hope to change, that there's now going to be service in northern Louisiana. As you'll see, from Marshall to Meridian, that's about 345 miles. A long-distance train is 805 miles. Anything over 750 is considered a long-distance train. But we think on existing right-of-way that already exists, we think we're in a great position to push this over the goal line because we have a lot of things in place. For those of you who know about this route, we know that there's wonderful benefits such as economic development, job creation, boosting tourism. But something that's also good to underscore is that where we are located, and with extreme weather now, this route could also be considered a disaster, an evacuation route during hurricanes and things like that. So there are a lot of things that the I-20 corridor long-distance train brings to the table. So again, why this point in time do we think we can push this over the goal line? Well, the first thing, something we've already discussed, and I will say that Jeff Everson, we met him first, I think, in 2008 in Marshall, Texas, when he was working with Senator Landrieu. So as we know, transportation projects can sometimes take a long time. But with this 15 years of building this grassroots collaborative multi-state coalition of Texas, Louisiana, and Mississippi, we have judges and mayors and commissioners like yourself and many different stakeholders along the route who have already pledged support. And I want to introduce Buzz Skaggs, the Executive Director of the Coordinating and Development Corporation, is here with me today, along with Austin Vaughn. The CDC has been so supportive of these efforts from the very beginning that we initiated this project. I just chose to take some pictures that would have a picture of Roy Burrell from, I think that's 2012, when we went to Baton Rouge, and this was in Marshall when we signed an MOU with, we have MOUs of Memorandum of Understanding of all parishes and counties from Fort Worth through Mississippi. And we've built that. And why do I mention this? I'm going to bring up why this is important to where we are today. As I said, we have 48 counties and parishes from Fort Worth to Mississippi on an MOU. And of course, Louisiana has been key to this multi-state coalition. And we thank all of the cities and parishes along the way who have been so supportive during these years. And I think when Governor John Bel Edwards first got into office, he supported our train, as did Secretary of Transportation Sean Wilson. And we now know we have the support of U.S. Senator Bill Cassidy, who of course voted for the bipartisan infrastructure bill. This is how far the funding goes back. The Corridor Council back in early '07 and '08, we received a grant for $738,000 with the help of our senator at that time, Kay Bailey Hutchison. And that's another key reason why this is important now that I'm speaking with you today, is because this funding is now in place with the IIJA. What's good is, I think the old term was shovel-ready. I guess, I don't know if that has the term that people use anymore. But what we have already in place is a feasibility study that proves that this long-distance route is economically viable without any ongoing annual expense to the states involved. And also our capacity study, which was completed in 2017, reflects that comparatively modest expenditure, about $80 million, though we talked with President Stephen Gardner, it's probably a little more than $80 million right now, would be added for sidings, because we're on existing track between Fort Worth and Meridian. And so we'd have to put sidings in. But in transportation language, as you know, $80 million is not a lot of money to get a train on board. So in 2021, my husband, as Commissioner Burrell had referenced, served in the Texas Senate with Congresswoman Eddie Bernice Johnson years ago, and she's now, of course, represents Dallas since 1993, and she's on the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee in the House. And we've worked with her kind of pedal to the metal this year to say, how can we push this over the goal line? And we had a meeting with Stephen Gardner, the president of Amtrak, in August, and he asked if she would reach out to the Surface Transportation Board Chairman Martin Omerman and ask that we be able to have passenger rail on the I-20 corridor route. She did that in October, and and that brings us to today, because the question might be, why am I talking about Amtrak when we're talking about the resolution on your agenda today? But there's a resolution that we ask your favorable support for this merger between Canadian Pacific and Kansas City Southern, with this resolution to be sent to the Surface Transportation Board. Why is that? The Canadian Pacific Railway has now, as of early January, entered into an agreement in support of passenger rail on the I-20 corridor route. And I left with Mr. Everson these bulletins, but also there's an agreement that you have in front of you, which is that agreement between Canadian Pacific and Amtrak, showing their support for the I-20 corridor. So today we just ask that you would support that, because we're going up and down from Fort Worth to Mississippi to get resolutions of support for this, so that we can register our support all up and down the I-20 corridor. And I just want to close with, we also have been, in 2014, we worked with the Southern Rail Commission and entered into a resolution of support there. They've been focused on the Gulf Coast train for the last 15 years. Hurricane Katrina, as you remember, in 2005, eliminated that train. And so they've been working with great dedication and wonderful work that they're doing on that train. But the other day they came to Bossier City and said that they would like to begin to support our train or help assist in our efforts here, and we're very grateful, because they are an entity that represents Louisiana, Alabama, and Mississippi, and have a funding source. So we're very grateful for their collaboration and assistance. So thank you very much for the opportunity to speak with you today. I'll answer any questions if you have any, but I just wanted to say thank you to you, sir, Vice President.
Thank you, Ms. Anderson. I think Commissioner Young may have a question for you.
Yes.
Hi, thank you, Mr. President. Hi, thank you for being here. I wonder, does this require a new bridge over the Red River, and do you have a
I do
idea
not
where that
know,
would be?
I will get back with you. I do not know if we need a new bridge. Thank you, though, for that question. I'll follow up with you.
All right, seeing no one else on the board, thank you, Ms. Anderson.
Thank you
We-
for your time.
we Wish you luck in your important project. Okay, I think Commissioner Burrell was going to have a quick photo op.
And while he does that, I will just share with everybody the materials that Ms. Anderson mentioned in her presentation are currently being scanned so that we can distribute them to all of you electronically.
Okay, thank you. All right, where are we on the agenda?
That brings us to our next visitor, which is Mr. U.L. Coleman, the president of U.L. Coleman Companies.
Hello, Mr. Coleman, come on up.
Jim.
Oh, I'm sorry, excuse me, like.
That's fine. I just
Okay.
wanted to
Okay.
introduce.
Okay, go ahead. Commissioner Epperson wanted to introduce you, Link.
Yes, sir. Okay, fellow commissioners as well as our guests and our viewers, I'd just like to introduce Mr. Lincoln Coleman with UL Coleman Companies. His organization has been in existence for over 47 years, about as long as our MPC has been in place. And Mr. Coleman has always supplied good advice and good critique to issues that have been going on at the commission since I've been here. He submitted a letter on February the 22nd, 2022, had it hand delivered to all of us. I don't know if any of you all read it, but I got mine ready. I always appreciate him sending us a copy of his annual report. It's the thing that he's doing on behalf of the parish as far as industrial development and things of that nature. And I thought it would be a good deal since he took the time out to give an opinion relative to our issue that we are dealing with as far as the Metropolitan Planning Commission, that he would come down and address us relative to his perspective on what's going on. Mr. Coleman.
Thank you, Commissioner Epperson. Thank you for coming down, Mr. Coleman. Go ahead, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Epperson. Thank you, everyone, for the opportunity to come and speak to you. The information that we're speaking about today is, my understanding is that the 5-mile radius or 5-mile extension beyond the city limits has been now removed from the Metropolitan Planning Commission, Shreveport Metropolitan Planning Commission. So the parish is now looking for ways to handle that appropriately, and so we appreciate everybody's efforts in that regard. I'll just mention a few things. The areas, we have been involved in the planning side of the business since we started our company in 1973. And we've been active members of the Urban Land Institute. The Urban Land Institute is a national organization, international organization. It was formed, it's a not-for-profit organization that was formed in 1935. And it is it's the Brookings Institute equivalent to the land use business. They do studies for land use, economic development, and best practices all over the world, and they provide that information. They have published articles and publications, and so it's an excellent resource. So it's available to everyone, including your group. So these the areas that essentially that have been growing around the country are those that have effective planning, and they're more sustainable. They create better quality of life, and they encourage economic development. And that's where you can study areas all over the country that are thriving, and those are the areas that you find that have effective planning. They have obviously other ingredients too, but that's one of the key benchmarks. The Urban Land Institute have a study that they do for areas, and the Caddo Commission was a partner in that study that was done in 2006. Shreveport, Bossier City, Bossier Parish, and Caddo Parish, and private citizens and companies jointly funded the study that was done. And so we came before you and asked for participation in that study at that time. It may have predated some of the people being here, but it's it was an outstanding study. We furnished a copy of that, even though it was done in 2006. A lot of the items are as current today as they were then. And so I urge everybody to look at that because it was excellent. And Mr. Tom Murphy, who was one of the lead participants in that, is a ULI senior fellow. He is available to come and meet with our community. He was also formerly the mayor of Pittsburgh. He was a mayor of the Pennsylvania legislature, and was there in Pittsburgh at the time that Pittsburgh was rebuilding after all the steel mills closed. So he has really seen a real transformation. He's available as a resource to us, as are other ULI members. So that study is available there. One of the things that was a key benchmark in the study was looking at the need for a master plan. Prior to that, there was not the last master plan was in 1956. And they looked at that, and obviously we needed a master plan for our metropolitan area. They recommended a joint master plan for the Shreveport-Bossier metropolitan area, which included, at that time, I think it included Webster and DeSoto parishes. So it was for the entire area. The decision was made to proceed with the master plan, but Bossier City and Bossier Parish elected to do independent master plans. Caddo Parish and Shreveport elected to do a separate master plan, and so that's the basis that was done at that time. Let me say, master plannings are, they're an ongoing educational process. They're things that are presented to communities. They're changes, and so change creates some hardship sometimes and some lack of understanding. So I look at it as an ongoing need for a communication process with the entire community. And so it's not just a matter of having a few public hearings before the master plan is formed, but it's an ongoing process to get people to buy in and show them, and in some cases take commissioners or public officials and private people to other cities and see what their pros and cons were. Not that anybody, Urban Land Institute or others, they're not trying to say they have one blueprint that fits all communities. So the communities need to resolve that and amongst themselves, but they need to find best practices that are used elsewhere and see what works in their community. So those are things. The need for a planning commission, obviously, is as you probably know, in many metropolitan areas, they're joint governmental agencies that are used. And so, I wasn't asked to speak on that, but I'll just give you my thought process on that. Is that it's an expensive process to set up the planning commission. And if you can possibly use, even not only on a short-term basis, but on a long-term basis, services that are already created by another agency that could be supplied to the community and to the entire parish on a more cost-effective basis by joining in the joint use of those services, that may be something you want to consider. In many metropolitan areas, they have one planning commission, that would cover all the parishes that are in the metropolitan area. So obviously, as you know, Bossier City and Bossier Parish have their own planning commission, as previously did Shreveport and Caddo Parish, and obviously now that's changed. But anyway, you may want to think about some joint use of services and the cost effectiveness. I urge you to at least do a cost accounting of where you're headed before you make your final vote. So I'd be glad to open it to questions, and let me also say that there are multiple groups that would be glad to assist you in any way process. The Urban Land Institute and some of their senior fellows, the American Institute of Architects, I can't speak for them, but I believe they would be very pleased to work with you. The American Planning Association, interestingly enough, the former president of the American Planning Association was a retired Jesuit high school graduate. So, and so he has retired at this point, but I believe he'd be a great resource for our community and has offered to help in a variety of areas. So don't hold him anything against him, but he went to Jesuit High School. So.
Thank you, Mr. Coleman. Let me see, any questions, anyone? If so, Commissioner Epperson's on the board.
I'd just like to thank Mr. Coleman and for, I don't know how many of you had an opportunity to visit Pittsburgh, but I had an opportunity to visit Pittsburgh when it was making this transformation from steel being the primary industry there. And I mean, it was a devastating transformation. And if you would look at it now, I've had that, then I had an opportunity to go up and study at the University of Pittsburgh and see the transformation. So we appreciate you bringing us that information. And certainly, I appreciate you throughout the years. You've always provided some valuable insight and comments and some good critique as to what was transpiring here. And I've always followed you, and I will continue to do so as long as I'm here. So thanks again for coming, sir.
Well, thank you very much. I would just say we have landscape architects and planners in our company. We'd be glad to make anything that we have available to you on a pro bono basis should you need anything. So if there's anything, feel free to reach out.
It's very kind of you, Mr. Coleman. Thank you for your time today, and thank you for that kind offer.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Oh, we got one more on the board. Sorry, Link, we had Commissioner Chavez popped up when I wasn't looking.
Yes, sir.
The name of that report in 2006, I didn't catch the name. What was that report?
It was called Project SB.
Okay. I want to look it up. I appreciate the reference.
And there should have been a copy attached to the letter that I sent to everyone. And so, but if you, for some reason, didn't.
We received them. Yes, sir, we did.
Okay.
If you have any difficulty locating it, just let me know.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Coleman.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Coleman. All right.
All right, that concludes the visitor section of our agenda, and the next item that we come to is adopting the regular session minutes.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Let's have a quick vote. Okay.
All right, and that motion passes unanimously with 11 in support, none in opposition, and 1 absent. That brings us to special resolutions, where we have a number of special resolutions today. Would you like me to read them first, and then you can adopt them, and then we can take up those that are being presented in person, or?
Yes, or are there representatives for each of these special resolutions here today?
I know that at least the first item has, Dr. Leviston is here, and I'm not sure about the other items, but I do know that.
All right, let's take them one at a time. Pardon me?
Oh, the Eden Gardens class of 1970. I believe there are representatives from that group as well that are here today.
Okay. All
So,
right, let's. How do you recommend we handle this, Mr. Clerk? You want to read them all at once and then formally recognize those that are here?
yeah, I think that would be great. That way they're all adopted, and then I can go back and read in full the two that are to be presented, if that's okay.
That'll be fine.
Okay, so those items are 8.1, Special Resolution of Recognition and Appreciation for Dr. Lena Leviston. The next item is a resolution of recognition and appreciation for Dr. Bruce Wilson for his service with the United Way of Northwest Louisiana. The next item is a special resolution recognizing March as Women's History Month and declaring March 8th as International Women's Day. The next item is a special resolution of support for the Ukraine and the defense of their sovereignty. And the next item is a special resolution recognizing the Eden Garden class of 1970.
All right, I'll accept a motion to accept.
Second.
We have a motion from Vice President Burrell and a second from Commissioner Stormy Gage Watts.
So that was a motion to englobo and adopt the special resolutions from Commissioner Burrell and seconded by Commissioner Gage Watts.
That's correct.
Wonderful.
All right. I don't think any comments are needed. Could we please make a vote on that motion?
All right, and that motion passes unanimously with 12 in support. And at this time, I believe Commissioner Burrell is making his way down. If it's appropriate, I will go ahead and read the special resolution for Dr. Lena Leviston.
That'll be great, but before you start, Mr. Clerk, let me just ask the commissioners, if you all have nominated, if you've raised a resolution onto the agenda and you have your party here and you want to recognize that party as they come up, if y'all each move up and recognize the individuals, that'll help us move along.
Absolutely.
Okay, Mr. Clerk, go ahead.
Okay, this is a special proclamation of recognition and appreciation for Dr. Lena Leviston. Whereas the Caddo Parish Commission is always pleased to recognize and honor
Stand,
those.
please. Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. If
Here
you can
comes
stand.
Dr. Leviston.
Whereas the Caddo Parish Commission is always pleased to recognize and honor those members of our community who've dedicated themselves to the education and inspiration of our Caddo Parish sons and daughters. And whereas Dr. Lena Blackwell Leviston is such a person who recently received the honor of being named the 2022 Changemaker Award at Caddo Middle Magnet during their 2022 Black History program, which included a celebration of her 50-year career as an educator in Caddo Parish, and various roles from Captain Shreve High School to Caddo Middle Magnet to the Caddo Parish administration and her community involvement, particularly her role with the Inner City Entrepreneur Institute's Biz Camp program. And whereas Dr. Leviston was born July 9, 1942, and has been recognized many times during her career as an educator, including early on being named as the Caddo Association of Educators Educator of the Year during her time at Captain Shreve as the clerical office education teacher, and deservingly so. She would go on to have a career that would see her perform many roles, including supervisor for vocational education for Caddo Parish schools. Leviston's passion for her community and service is not limited to the halls of academia. She currently serves as the secretary for the Galilee Family Enrichment Center Incorporated and is a longtime devoted member of Galilee Missionary Baptist Church, as well as serving on organizations such as the secretary for the Caddo Council on Aging. Whereas Dr. Leviston's skill and ability to educate have combined with her passion to serve her community on many instances, perhaps most recognizably through her more than 20 years supporting the Biz Camp program, which has graduated nearly 800 students who come from disadvantaged communities to learn how to run a small business, develop and market products and services, budget and account for their resources, and to dream of the possibilities that exist beyond the often limited opportunities they are otherwise exposed to. Now therefore be it resolved by the Caddo Parish Commission that it does hereby declare and recognize and proclaim March 5th, 2022 to be Dr. Lena Leviston Day in Caddo Parish, Louisiana, and recognition and admiration of her notable achievements and contributions to Caddo Parish community. And the Caddo Parish Commission invites all Caddo residents to join in the celebration of Dr. Leviston's 50 years of creating a legacy in education, using her professionalism to inspire and enrich young people's lives, and encouraging them to believe in and foster their entrepreneurial spirit and professional talents.
Mr. President and Commission, before we give some words to Lena, I just want to say that she is a very, very special person, a treasure in this community. You said 50 years, it's actually 56 years. Now, I don't know if you know that many teachers or educators who've been there and teaching kids that long and still teaching and still looking like this. That's a blessing within itself. And as we said, that she has been teaching our kids. I know you've heard of the Biz Camp program. Some of her students are here. Over 20 years ago, Renee Blackwell, she was our first student. I was a director at that time. Now I'm no longer director. Our interim director, Rudy Morton, who sits there, that's there. He is the director for Biz Camp. But she was a 2001 student, and when she finished, she has 2 daycares now. So and also Brandon is Brandon Leviston, he's a 2013 graduate, and we have a 2021 graduate of our program. So we've been here over 21 years. Where is Brianna? So you see, we've spanned at that, and those young people are still excited about what we do. And at this time, I'll turn it over to them, and if y'all just come up and they wanted to present something to Lena here at the commission. Oh, it's more than that. Well, here's the other one. I didn't know that they showed up. But anyway, Lena, you want to say something, and hopefully we'll catch a picture, and we'll be on to the next one. Lena?
You know, this world would really be so much better if the people in it would say that I know something good about you and then treat us just that way. And wouldn't it life be much more happier if the good that's in us all was the only thing about us that people bother to recall? And wouldn't life be fine and dandy if we would just praise the good we see? For there is such a lot of goodness in the worst of you and me. And it would be really nice if we would practice that fine way of thinking too, that you know something good about me, and I know something good about you. To the parish commissioner, Mr. Burrell, Ms. Gates, and the rest of the commissioners, you have chosen this day to recognize some good things about me. And I'm humbly grateful. To God be the glory. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Lewis. Commissioner Jackson. Commissioner Jackson.
I'll wait.
Are you want for her or for the next one? Okay. If anyone has any words for Dr. Levison, please get on the board.
Should be.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Hold on, Dr. Levison. We've got some people want to say a few words to you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Jackson.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. President. Let me try and get myself together. Commissioner Chavez just whispered something in my ear. Can we just have a, I don't know, do you want to? Okay. Yeah. Dr. Leviston, thank you for coming down. I do believe that your work and everything that you just said speaks to and your character and your humility and your humbleness speaks to everything that is actually in the resolution. I didn't get an opportunity to be a part of co-op and DECA and all those programs that you influenced in Caddo Parish, but I had a lot of friends who had that privilege of being a part of it. And so teaching young individuals, young minds about owning a business and how to put together those business plans, it pays off from the academic setting into the real world. And so I know we had gotten an email, I don't know if Commissioner Burrell told you about it, we had gotten an email, and I'll stir the pot up saying why. And I started to respond, you know, my own thing is why not? Why not? And myself, Commissioner Burrell, and others, Commissioner Gates watch, our names will make the headlines. Our names will go in the paper. We have to start lifting up and recognizing the true roses and gems in our communities that are in our communities doing the work, and it shows with all those young folks that showed up to present you your roses here. So thank you so much for what you've done.
And I might add, the Eden Gardens class of 1970, I'm the teacher. I was the teacher during that time.
Absolutely.
Hold on, Dr. Levison. Thank you, Commissioner Jackson. Commissioner Epperson.
Ms. Levingston, it's indeed a pleasure
You got more, Ms. Levinson.
to recognize you today. I'm heading into, I think, my 24th year collectively as a commissioner. And ever since I've been down here, I've heard Ms. Levingston's name.
Thank you.
And I just appreciate your tenacity, your persistence, and all of the good that you have done throughout this community. And guess what? Who was that used to sing that song? I ain't no ways tired.
No,
You don't look like you no ways
I'm
tired.
not.
Keep on.
I'm enjoying
Thank you.
every day of it.
And
Thank you.
One
Thank
more,
you.
Commissioner Stormy Gage Watts.
Thank you, Mr. President. Dr. Livingston, it is such an honor and a privilege to be able to honor you on today. You have made so many noteworthy accomplishments in my short tenure that I am aware of. And as always, we love to give you your flowers while you can yet smell them. Thank you for everything that you have provided for our community, and we love you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Levinson. Okay, Commissioner. Commissioner Jackson, do you see Dr. Bruce Wilson out there? I don't.
He's not here. We can do it at the next meeting. As y'all know, Bruce is retired and he's getting a head start on his retirement, but he did say
Okay.
he would come down at some point. So let's just hold off.
Just roll to the next agenda.
We got a copy of it we can provide for you, and we can, we're happy to present it whenever he's available.
Thank you.
The next item is a special resolution recognizing March as Women's History Month. Did you want that one read into the record, or?
Yes, please read it.
Okay.
I'll make the motion also.
It's already been.
Yeah, we adopted them in Globo.
Okay.
But I will read this one. It reads, it's a proclamation. Whereas American women of every race, class, and ethnic background have made historic contributions to the growth and strength of our nation in countless recorded and unrecorded ways. And whereas American women have played and continue to play a critical economic, cultural, and social role in every sphere of life of the nation by constituting a significant portion of the labor force working inside and outside of the home. And whereas American women have played a unique role throughout the history of the nation by providing the majority of the volunteer labor workforce of the nation, and whereas American women were particularly important in the establishment of early charitable, philanthropic, and cultural institutions in our nation. And whereas despite these contributions, the role of American women in history has consistently been overlooked and undervalued in the literature, teaching, and study of American history. Whereas women across the globe face similar obstacles and biases and have come together to encourage a diverse, equitable, and inclusive world by celebrating the achievements of women, raising awareness of bias, and taking action for equality. And now therefore be it resolved by the Caddo Parish Commission meeting in legal and regular session this third day of March 2022 that it does hereby proclaim March 2022 as National Women's History Month. And be it further resolved that the Caddo Parish Commission does hereby proclaim March 8th, 2022 as International Women's Day in Caddo Parish, Louisiana, and urges all citizens to join with the parish to celebrate the recognition of these important occasions. And that brings us to the next item.
One moment, Mr. Clerk. Commissioner Epperson?
I want to speak relative to the Women's Month resolution. If
Please.
Ms. Gage, did you have anything you want?
Sure, I'll be brief. Thank you, Commissioner. I just wanted to add that there is not enough paper nor ink for us to recognize all of the accomplishments that women contribute to our society on a daily basis. But as the only elected woman on this body, I dare not allow this moment to pass without making a mark in history, as well as allowing the public to know that we support Women's Day, as well as International Women's Month. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Gage Watts. Commissioner Epperson?
On yesterday afternoon, Mr. Coleman and I were speaking on the phone about his visit here today, and I told him, I said, I'm gonna put you on speaker because I'm cooking. And so we had a little joke, and I told him about how the youngsters are good. I told him it was to be married, and I said, you cook and keep them women happy, you'll have a long, happy marriage. But I just had to write a little something about the women's, and I said March is Women's History Month. It is an annual celebration of women's contributions to history, culture, and society. The United States has an abundance of women trailblazers and pioneers that have continued to contribute to our history. These women fought for their rights, fought to be treated equal, and to be able to participate in all that our society has to offer. In the United States, women were estimated to be more than half of the population in 2020, 166.24 million. Also, women in the United States are considerably more likely to be registered and go to the polls and vote. A powerful tools, women. I respect and support all of the strides that our women have made in the past, are presently working on, and their future plans for inclusion in every level of our society. As James Brown once stated in his hit song, the world would be nothing, nothing without a woman or a girl. No words have ever rang so true. In my middle school typing class, our timed school speed drill sentence was, "Now is the time for all men of goodwill to come to the aid of their country." I often would think to myself, why would they just say, "Now's the time for all men of goodwill"? But now, I stand ready to say, now is the time for all women of goodwill to come to the aid of our country. Our women have and will continue to make our United States and the world a better place. May God continue to bless and keep our women. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Epperson. Commissioner Vice President Burrell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think I would be remiss if I did not recognize this too. Women are our first teachers. All or most of who and what we are starts with the mother, a woman. So in that vein, Mr. Chairman, to keep it short, I salute all the women of our nation and our world. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Burrell. Seeing no one else on the board, let's move forward, Mr. Clerk.
All right, the next item is a special resolution of support for the Ukraine in defense of their sovereignty. Did you want that read?
Commissioner Burrell, you were the main the lead.
I think it's pretty short, if you would.
Okay. This resolution reads, a special resolution of support for Ukraine and the defense of their sovereignty. Whereas late on Wednesday, February 23rd, Russian President Vladimir Putin announced a military invasion of the sovereign nation of Ukraine. And whereas in the first days of the invasion, the Russian military has conducted multiple bombings and attacks across Ukraine, killing and injuring soldiers and civilians. As we enter the second week of this invasion, verified Ukrainian casualties include more than 15 children, and estimates of casualties range from 250 to 2,000 Ukrainian civilians. Whereas the attacks have been strongly condemned by President Biden and other global leaders, both of government and industry, who have stood in solidarity with Ukraine to provide humanitarian aid, private resources, arms, and the imposition of unprecedented economic sanctions on Russia. And whereas the Russian invasion of Ukraine is unprovoked and unprecedented in a time of relative peace across Europe, and the world has watched as President Zelensky and the Ukrainian people defend their sovereignty with honor. And whereas some members of the Ukrainian community call Caddo Parish home while maintaining family, traditions, and history in Ukraine, and some Ukrainians are temporary members of our community as they study or work among us. And whereas our Ukrainian neighbors are undergoing a period of significant hardship and grief during this time, and many Caddo citizens have risen to show support and solidarity, from displaying the colors of the Ukrainian flag on the Caddo Parish Courthouse and the City of Shreveport's Bukowski Bridge of Lights, to houses of worship hosting services and prayer sessions, to local stores removing their stocks of Russian products, businesses limiting their trade with Russian-owned companies, and even traditionally Ukrainian food being sold by local food vendors, with proceeds going to Ukrainian relief. Now therefore be it resolved that the Caddo Parish Commission stands in solidarity with our Ukrainian neighbors, and that the Caddo Parish Commission sends thoughts and prayers for peace in Ukraine, and that the Caddo Parish Commission stands ready to welcome and support refugees which may arrive in our community as a result of this or similar conflicts in other nations, and that the Caddo Parish Commission applauds our citizens who have exhibited support for Ukraine. We invite Caddo residents to consider standing with Ukraine however may be appropriate for them.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Commissioner Burrell?
Thank you, Mr. President. I would only say that we must continue to support democracies around the world. They are under attack right now. Democracy is. Autocracy is gaining ground. If you would just listen at the news, you'll see that to be the case. You can look at what's going on in the U.S., and you have a bit of that taking place. Autocracy is trying to gain hold, and our democracy is as I said, under attack. regardless of whether it's around the world, I think Caddo Parish and its citizens should also recognize this, because all politics is local and it starts in that area. Lastly, I would like to thank Commissioner Gage Watts for recognizing the struggle of the Ukraine people by providing our beautiful blue and gold ribbon that should recognize the struggle of the people of Ukraine. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Burrell. Commissioner Johnson.
I just got one question for Dr. Wilson. Did we get the blue and gold lights on the courthouse? Did we get the blue and gold lights on the courthouse?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you. That's all I have.
Yes, sir. Commissioner Gage Watts.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I would just like to add, I wanted to say thank you to administration, to Valerie Gunn, for you all getting these ribbons together for us. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Gage Watts. Commissioner Epperson.
For those of you that may not know the military part of it, Ukraine did support us in Afghanistan and Iraq, and also the death toll of the Russians has already surpassed the amount of the American military lives that was lost after 20 years in Afghanistan. We only lost over 2,200 men, which is too many. But the death toll of the Russians that are attacking Ukraine right now has surpassed the 20 years of fighting that we were engaged in Afghanistan in just 6 days.
Wow.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Epperson. Seeing no one else on the board, that takes us to the next special resolution, Mr. Clerk.
That brings us to the next resolution, which is a special resolution recognizing the Eden Garden class of 1970. I believe we do have some representatives here today.
If you want to read that, well, you can gather your gang together while while the clerk reads the resolution.
Absolutely. I don't know. Did you want me to wait, or were y'all going to stand as I read?
Yeah.
Is the special proclamation of recognition and appreciation for the 1970 class of Eden Garden High School. Whereas the Caddo Parish Commission recognizes the importance of acknowledging those Caddo Parish citizens who persevere through difficult times.
Mr. Clerk, can we allow them to get here?
Yes. We're waiting for them to get to the front. Is that where
Yeah.
Okay.
I think we're all here.
I'm sorry, I had a bit of a glare. I can't
No,
really
you're
tell. Is everybody in place?
Yes,
Okay.
sir. Yes, sir.
Whereas the Caddo Parish Commission recognizes the importance of acknowledging those Caddo Parish citizens who persevered through difficult times and suffered tremendous personal sacrifice in order to improve the lives of those who would come after them and right the wrongs of those who came before them. And whereas the 1970 class of Eden Gardens High School is an excellent example of one such group of young people whose stories of sacrifice cannot be lost to time, for the wrongs that caused them have to sacrifice continue to require correction and refining to correct past mistakes and avoid making them in the future. And whereas and whereas this class of students who were preparing to graduate were unceremoniously transitioned to Captain Shreve High School in an effort to correct segregation by integrating Caddo schools. However, due to resistance of the community and difficulties agreeing to a transitional plan, these students were transitioned to their new school with less than 2 months to go before they graduated, essentially losing their ability to celebrate their matriculation and the time that they had spent together as a class, to the extent that they were not allowed to print their yearbook and not included in the yearbook of the new school that they were transitioned into. Though this brave class of students crafted a memory book out of index cards and have maintained a bond that can only be formed through perseverance. Whereas students at Eden Gardens supported the integration of schools, but acknowledged the unnecessarily tremendous burden that it placed on them during the transition, and grieved the loss of documentation of this very important moment in their lives and the history of our parish, even inspiring a protest that featured a march from the Cedar Grove neighborhood all the way to downtown Shreveport. While the protest was not able to prevent the timing of the transition, it did further illustrate the need for integration, as the bus ride back to Cedar Grove was the first occasion that many of the participants had been allowed to ride the city bus. And now therefore be it resolved by the Caddo Parish Commission that it does hereby declare and recognize and proclaim March 10th, 2022 to be Remembering the Forgotten 1970 Class of Eden Gardens Day in Caddo Parish, Louisiana, and recognition and admiration of the tremendous sacrifices made by these young people and the lasting and important benefit that it has had on our community. As we transition out of Black History Month, the Caddo Parish Commission asks citizens to continue to remember and be aware of the many sacrifices made by people like the 1970 class of Eden Gardens High School, and to honor their perseverance and contributions to our community.
Commissioner Jones, do you or anyone from the class have anything to say?
Yeah, we're gonna get the picture first.
Okay.
Good afternoon. To the commission, my name is Jack Johnson. I am the vice president of the class of 1970, Eden Garden Captain Shreve. Our president is Anthony Powell. He could not be here because of prior commitments, but we want to thank you guys for taking the time out to show your appreciation of what we went through in 1970. It was hard times back then, but by the grace of God, we made it through. It made us a better people. And we appreciate you guys taking the time to do this for us. And it's a double honor for us today to be here with Dr. Leviston. She was one of our teachers back in Eden Garden, so just a double thing for us. So thank you so much. We appreciate your appreciation.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being here today. And we do have a comment or two for you, please. If y'all can just stay tight. Commissioner Burrell.
Mr. President, I would be remiss if I didn't recognize this class of 1970 because that is the year that we integrated, and you're right, it was a tough time. Right. It was a time in which I wasn't even invited to my own graduation banquet. It was a time when I didn't get a scholarship with almost a 4-point average. Wow. So people don't recognize some of the things that we went through just to survive and to go through this, and to at least, although my scholarship was taken, they didn't break my will. I graduated from college along with 9 of my other brothers and sisters because we went there, and it was only 2 blacks in our whole class. Wow. So it was a very tough time, and you know, you learn and you look back. Some people say, well, you should be angry. No, I was blessed because I learned how to deal with the world. That's right. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Commissioner Burrell. Commissioner Chavez.
Thank you, President. I have this really cool story that I wanted to share with you. I didn't know y'all's story, but a friend of mine that goes to a Bible study with me, we were having breakfast a couple days ago, and he told me about your class. He's one of your classmates. Wow. And he told me about the situation and how it was only 100 people taken and put to 2,000 people, and the difference and what he had to go through. And Doctor said it, to God be the glory. Right. He was a state sergeant major for the Army and then a principal up in Dayton, Ohio. And he's just an amazing man, and I get to hang out with a lot. And he never told me about this until breakfast the other day. So I love hearing the story and the encouragement, just like Commissioner Burrell said. He was never angry about it. He told me how it hurt his feelings back when it happened, but that he said, I never let that get me down, and the perseverance is what got me to where I am today. And it was just an encouraging story, and to have his other classmates here telling me about the same story, it's so cool the way it works, and Doctor's right, to God be the glory. That's right. So thank you guys for coming down. Thank you, President.
Thank you, Commissioner Chavez. I sure would hate to have a Sergeant Major as my principal. Commissioner Jackson.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Commissioner Jones, for authoring this special resolution, and thank you to your class. Deacon, I didn't even know, he's the deacon at my church right here. Right. And I didn't even know, and so about this story, I know we often hear about Booker T. Washington because it was in historic Allendale, and we often hear about that in the relationship to Pastor Blake and stuff like that. And when I saw the story Tuesday morning, maybe on the news, and saw Mary Ann tearing up, and saw that y'all's names were just kind of inserted into something, it really made me feel some type of way. But I think what we ought to do is make a conscious effort to some kind of way do an oral history project to capture this, because here in Eden Garden. And then there was also a Valencia store.
Right.
I'm sure the students at Valencia have a store. And then and listening to Vivian Andrews, the students that were involved with Woodlawn,
Right.
the integration of Woodlawn. And there's just so many unsung and untold stories that have not been told in this community. And I would love to see between the commission, the school board, the city of Shreveport, and all type of stakeholders and philanthropists to get this information in some type of oral history so that it is not gone, it's not lost.
Right.
Because that was news to me, you know. And so, and like I said, we go to church, and I didn't know about it. And so this is we're proud, and you know, we stand on the shoulders of a lot of giants, but a lot of quiet giants as well. Dr. King had a favorite saying about the ground crew. He said a pilot can't get his plane up in the air and get from destination A to destination B without the quiet and humble work of the ground crew, the folks who are busy doing the work, raising the issues, but don't necessarily get the glory and fame as the pilot, but their work is just as important. Their sacrifice is just as important. So thank you for making that sacrifice and standing up for what has been right. Deke, you know, our pastor always say that when you look at the magnet school system here in Caddo Parish, all it is, well, never mind. I won't say that on the record,
No.
but we know what it is.
I know. Yeah.
And you have people who live right across the street from some of those schools.
That's right.
Who can't even go to those schools. And it's very unfortunate. And it speaks to a system in our community that we need to continue to try to fix. So thank you, and thank you for offering this resolution. So thank you, Mr. President.
Guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Jackson. I'm sorry, we still have a few more folks that would like to comment. Commissioner Epperson.
Yes, sir. Ms. Levinson, you did a good job on, I know 2 of them personally, and I know you did a good job on the rest of them. I know Brother Jack, when Sears was open up there, if he wasn't in, I wouldn't go to Sears.
Oh yeah.
I would not go to Sears, but
Oh,
that hurt my heart when they closed Sears.
Yeah.
I had an issue out on Highway 171 and called up at the Sears, and Brother Jack took care of it.
Yes, sir.
That's the kind of person he was when he run that service center over there, and we appreciate it. And when I need money, call Brother James White, the money man. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Epperson. Commissioner Gage Watts, I think, is the last one on the board.
Thank you, Mr. President, and I'll be brief. I too see 2 of my church members here, my deacon and Miss Lucinda, and I just wanted to say that I agree with the sentiments that have been said on today, and to tell you thank you for your tenacity. You truly are the shoulders that we stand on today. So thank you for everything that you've done up to this moment. True unsung heroes that our children deserve to hear about. So it's an honor to be able to honor you on this day. There's nothing that we could ever do to replace what was taken from you, but we hope that this gives you some comfort. Thank you.
One more. Thank you, Commissioner Gage Watts. Commissioner Young, please.
Thank you, Mr. President, and congratulations to you all for leading such valuable lives in our community. I wanted to speak because my mom, Vicki Moore was her name, was in the class at Captain Shreve, into which perhaps you were transferred in 1970, 1971. And she told me as a child about the experience of integration and how hard it was for the students, who I now know are you, who transferred into her school. And I wanted you to know that if she happened to be aware that you're here, she would want me to tell you congratulations and hi, and that your suffering didn't go unnoticed by many of the other students in the school. So thank you all.
Thank you, Commissioner Young. Thank you all so much, and thank you, Commissioner Jones, for, did you
Yes,
have some
sir.
words?
No, thank you, Mr. President. I just want to thank you all for coming and being here today. Of course, my Aunt Mary is a part of this class as well, and she couldn't be here today, but I did tell her I would shout her out. She was upset about not being able to be here. But
I was kind of raised by this class, so to speak. Almost every class reunion in my lifetime that they had, I was a part of. I wasn't a part of the class, but because my Aunt Mary was there, she would bring me along with her. And I had no clue that they had dealt with all the things that they had dealt with, because you couldn't tell,
Right.
because they kept such a great attitude about, you know, how they carried their business. You just thought everything just went just as well as my senior year in high school, and I didn't know that they were robbed of so many things. So I think that's a great example to so many of us, to keep a smile on your face even when you're in your darkest hour, to be able to persevere and go through things in life, because life is going to happen to each and every one of us, but you have a choice as to what you're going to do with what happens to you. And this class is a great example as you can make a better situation out of what you have. So I want to thank you all for being an example as to what my generation and generations after me need to emulate. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Tucker. Okay, Commissioner Clark.
All right, and that brings us to the next section on our agenda is communiques and committee reports.
All right, if anyone has any communiques or committee reports, please get on the board. Commissioner Chavez.
Thank you, President. Dr. Wilson, thank your team for getting the railroad information to me. That was very expedient. So 3 weeks it'll be fixed, and the people won't have a ramp anymore for their cars. They're very excited about that. Just again, an invitation. Tomorrow we're having our ribbon cutting at the dog park for Southern Hills at 11 a.m. Welcome all you commissioners, and Dr. Wilson, if we want to bring a table with adoptions and anything that we have with the CPA swag that we may want to give out. I know Starbucks is offering to come bring puppuccinos, which are little tiny cappuccinos for your dog. So if you guys bring a dog, they'll get a free puppuccino. And then again, Saturday morning at 8 a.m., we're having our Southern Hills quarterly cleanup. Welcome any commissioners who'd like to come. And we're just going to spend a couple hours cleaning up different areas around Southern Hills, and Little Caesars is sponsoring and feeding all the volunteers. And again, Starbucks is going to fuel everybody for free with coffee before we get out there and work. Thank you, President.
Thank you, Commissioner Chavez. Dr. Wilson, did you want to be on the board now, or did you want to save that for your?
Yeah, I'll save it for my report, sir.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Gage Watts.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to invite my colleagues and anyone else who is listening who would like to join LSU and Ochsner LSU held in a drive for Ukrainian citizens. We will be collecting essential items to send to the citizens of Ukraine. So I have a list, and I'll send it to the clerk, and you're welcome to share it with everyone. And it will begin on tomorrow through next Thursday. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Today I've been troubled a lot because there was a 17-year-old that was shot in Queensboro. This young man met him first time Tuesday at a basketball game. He was stated to play Friday because Huntington is in the playoffs. Good athlete, very fired up kid, and to be shot today in Queensboro really has messed me up. Being as a teenager, I have a teenage son, and the shooting was senseless. I would like for us to try to put together some type of task force that we can get together, and it's more about getting the leaders of these gangs together. We need to get them together. Need to get them in a room or in a independent stadium somewhere that sit down and talk so they can stop doing all these senseless killings. This is broad daylight. Boy get killed in it, and it just doesn't make any sense. The police are doing all they can do, but at the same time, you know, it's just retaliation after retaliation after retaliation. And they don't seem to have no conscience about it. It's just, you know, I just don't understand it right now. And I hope that we can get this task force together, that we can try to get these gang members in. Police know who the gang leaders are. They know what gangs we got in town. We need to get them together and talk, see what's going on.
see if we can call for a truce. I mean, prayer vigils the praying works, but the vigil itself, once you have the vigil, there's no follow-up behind it. There's nothing else that comes from that. To sit down and try to have these talks. And also, I want to have some of the older gang members there, because you got some that basically been in the gang and they've gotten out. Need to have all of them in one location that we can sit and talk to understand what's going on and why it's still going on the way it is, and to call for a truce for at least 30 days, and then from there extend it another 30 days. Because where does it end? I mean, this kid, there's a lot of kids right now in Shreveport that are hurting. Some of them want to see some action. So you're talking about another retaliation. His basketball team right now, devastated. The coaches, the principals, the students at Huntington, all devastated. And so you follow that up with, okay, an eye for an eye. And we got another shooting at another school for another kid somewhere. We need to stop it. And I think that we're in a position where we can at least try to get people acclimated to try to get this done as a task force, so that we can say we at least tried to get it to stop. Because right now, just putting it on law enforcement, it's not gonna get it. The citizens, some of them are scared. They don't want to get involved because I might be next. But we're sitting as elected officials representing certain districts, and we need to try to do something other than talk about it or not even talk about it. To turn your head to the situation and walk away and talk about other things. Russia is in war over there with Ukraine. We got a war here in Shreveport that we need to put an end to. And it's not just Shreveport, it's other cities of our size and larger. But for some reason, these kids are just doing senseless killings. That's all I had, Mr. President.
Thank you, Commissioner Johnson. My condolences on your personal loss in that regard, and let me know what I can do to support your leadership on your efforts for a task force.
Okay.
Commissioner Young.
Thank you, Mr. President. First, I'd like to say that I agree with Commissioner Johnson, and it seems like a great idea to have a task force to try to tackle our gang problem. Second, I just wanted to briefly thank all the commissioners for their vote about animal control reform last December. It was especially important to me today to know that we might make progress in that, as I walked home from a lunchtime walk with my dogs and was attacked by a pit bull who pushed his way out of the fence in my neighbor's yard. I wasn't hurt, and my dog doesn't seem to be hurt, but I hope that this new law will help us bring our population into control, and I want to thank you again for voting for it.
Thank you, Commissioner Young. Commissioner Gage Watts.
Thank you, Mr. President. As I learned today of the young man who lost another life in Caddo Parish in Shreveport, so senseless, took me back to being a teenager myself. Someone who had such a bright future before him, and it was stolen away. As it has been said by Commissioner Johnson, we are obligated to do something, and obligated to do more than just talk about it. As a mother of 3 young men, my heart aches for his parents. I was talking to Commissioner John Paul Young as we came into meeting today about an idea that I think that God has given me to get these young men at the table. In 2015, Commissioner Johnson and I held one of the first Stop the Violence rallies in Shreveport. And it was standing room only in Winfield and down Jewella and Hollywood of concerned citizens. But the people who were missing from the conversation were the people who are responsible for the blood on our streets. I hope, and I'm gonna ask for this date on March 18th. If it's available, Mr. Clerk, I'm going to ask for a meeting on that date because we will need legal at this meeting to talk about how to get these young individuals, not just men, but women as well, young women, into this room to help explain to them that we don't want to see another young person lose their life too soon. My heart goes out to the parents again and to the families. You are in my prayers, in my thoughts, and you are our business. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Gage Watts. Just to be clear, is that a juvenile services meeting? Is that the brand you would?
Yeah, we'll push it through.
Okay.
There.
Thank you. Commissioner Jones.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to continue the sentiments of Commissioner Gage Watson, Commissioner Johnson, and many others. My teenage son called me today, upset because a young man that he knows from AAU basketball was killed. And Stefan doesn't get upset about a whole lot of stuff, but I can tell when my son is really bothered. And what bothers me even further is to know that our community has become so numb to what goes on that we just kind of look at it as another alert on our phones from KSLA or whomever. And it goes off so much now that my younger two know when that sound goes off on my phone, somebody's probably been shot. My 9 to 7-year-old can recognize the tone on my phone, that if it goes off, they know someone's been injured in some type of way. I would hope that we would begin to think of every solution, that we would turn over every stone, that we would not get any rest knowing that we have mothers and fathers out here who are losing rest because they have to bury their children. Huntington basketball is in, I think, the semifinals tonight. They have an opportunity, quarterfinals, they have an opportunity to make it to the state championship with this very talented team to win it all. The boys and the girls at that school are on a tremendous historic run to bring everything back home, and it has been shattered. And if you think it's going to be easy for those young men to strap up their shoes tonight and go out there and play, that's going to be very difficult. The young man who was lost today, he and Huntington's best player are like brothers. I believe they're cousins, if I'm not mistaken, but they are more like brothers. And that's going to be very difficult for those young people to go on and just try to be children. When I was at Captain Shreve in 2003, my senior year, the last thing I was worried about was losing a classmate to gun violence. This was back in 2003. That's not 20 years ago. And in 2 decades, it seems that we have lost generations because we are just overlooking solutions, just not trying to, like Commissioner Johnson said, well, we got to have a better police department. We got to have a better sheriff's department. That's not fair. It's not fair to ask people who are already working 16 hours a day for very little pay at that and to put all the blame on them alone. And we can't put the blame on the parents alone. It's not fair to ask a single mother who's working more than one job, you ought to get a hold of your kids. How do you know she's not trying to do that? When are we going to look at ourselves and say, it's something that I can do? I have an idea. Let me bring a solution to the table, and here's the plan to make that happen. Because I'm with Commissioner Johnson. I'm over the rallies and the visuals. I want solutions. I believe prayer works. I operate by prayer. But faith without works is dead. We can believe we can have a better city. When are we going to start putting the efforts towards it? When are we going to say, this is as far as the commission can go, but we're going to give everything that we can. Every resource we can lend to the city of Shreveport and surrounding areas, this is what we're going to do. And we're going to be consistent with that until we see a community where every citizen can live freely here. Seniors should be able to go and sit on their porch and enjoy a beautiful day like we had today without worrying about hearing gunshots in homes that they've paid for, that they've worked hard for. They shouldn't have to move out of Cedar Grove or Hollywood or wherever, or Queensboro. Nice, big, beautiful homes in Queensboro that they've built from the ground up. Why should they have to move away? Because people are being shot in the middle of the day. No, we need to get a control on the crime in our area. And we're going to stop blaming these children for everything because they're children. Who's guiding them? Where are the adults that are saying this is the way we need to go? It's not all on the kids. It's all about them, but it's not all on them. And until we decide and realize that if we don't save this generation, those of us who are going to be nearing retirement within 20 years will have nothing to look forward to. We won't have a Shreveport or Caddo Parish to call home. That will be beautiful. It'll be a war zone. I want to see my children grow up in a safe community, and I don't want to hear and this is not the first phone call I've gotten from my son about one of his friends being killed, but I can promise you I want it to be the last. I'm so sick of hearing it. I'm tired. I'm tired of it, and I know y'all are tired too. Let's do something different. Let's do something different, and let's look at other parishes. Let's look at other counties and see what they've had to do to make this stuff work. Whatever case studies we got to look at, whoever we've got to call and talk to, whatever consultants we've got to get down here, Dr. Wilson, whatever we've got to do, let's make it happen. I know there are other ways to get it done. I think we can try a little bit harder. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Jones. Commissioner Epperson.
Tomorrow morning at 9:30, I will be addressing about 100 middle school students at Lakeshore, AMI kids. And there's a piece that I had written in 1987 that I go over with them and have them to sign, and their parents, called a Student's Oath of Commitment to Education. And if any of you would like to come, I'm pretty sure that Principal Hamilton wouldn't mind you all coming and sitting in on that discussion tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Epperson, and thank you for your work with our kids. Commissioner Jackson.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. Clay.
Yes, sir.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm okay.
Juvenile crime, right?
Yes.
And so a 16, 17-year-old commits a homicide, they still, at some point, do they ever come to juvenile detention? Or do they just go straight to CCC?
In Louisiana, at as young as 14, you can be tried as an adult.
Right, I'm saying, but do they ever come to juvenile?
They come to juvenile. They
So that's the first stop?
Yes.
Okay. And if this is just a dumb idea, say it. Because I've been over the rallies, I've been over prayer works, but I've been over the prayer meetings. I have not been to a crime rally, a prayer meeting, a crime summit since we did the thing out at Southwood at 8 a.m. on a Saturday morning. I don't know what criminals wake up and go to school on a Saturday at 8 a.m. But what I would like to explore the idea is if they come to juvenile, I would like to have, and if it's not allowed, just say it's not allowed, but to have a rap session, no cameras, everybody can show up, and if it's not allowed, just think about it. But I don't expect anybody who's pulling these triggers or who are involved in crime or who's in this sort of underground movement to come to us. We are going to have to go to them. And what I told Mayor Tyler at the time, and I'm saying it again, I'm not coming to any prayer rally, I'm not coming to any crime summit until we just make the conscious effort to get down to some of these alleys where some of this stuff is happening, until we make a conscious effort to get on some of those blocks where some of this stuff is happening, boots on the ground, no cameras, no pictures. Because I tell people I can walk anywhere in my district and it's full of alleys and dark spots and not have to worry. I can pull right up to that liquor store right there on P Avenue and hang out, talk, chew some fat, as they call it, with everybody right there and not have to worry about anything. We got to go to people And we got to go to some of the worst areas where these things are happening. And so my thing is, if they come to juvenile detention center, let's have a session right there. If you've got 13 homicide suspects right there, let's get a couple folks and go talk to them and see what's going on and see what the problem is and see how we can help them. I don't know if y'all asked that question with social workers, but it may take some OGs to get in there and talk to them and not talk to them, not talk down to them either. But again, no cameras, no press. Nobody got to know what's being discussed. But let's get an understanding. Let's go in there. Let's get an understanding. Because, see, I know some folks, when they hear a crime rally and the media going to be there and all that, they put that, you know it. They go into Hollywood mode. And I'm not talking about anybody else. I'm talking about some of the folks on the outside. I'm talking about the folks on the outside. They go into that Hollywood mode. And that's not what these rallies and these summits should be about. It should be about getting an understanding from the perpetrators of these incidents. And we have to find a way to go to them. And if folks wanted to be in a controlled environment, I don't know any more controlled environment than showing up, a couple folks showing up to juvenile detention center to sit down. I wouldn't mind having lunch. And I know it sounds crazy, but I wouldn't mind having lunch with a 13-year-old or 14-year-old that has pulled the trigger on somebody. I wouldn't mind doing it because I think it's worth it. But it's not, if it's not allowed, I get it.
What I can tell you, I mean, I hear and I can feel what Commissioner Johnson and Stormy Gage Watts and Commissioner Jones, what y'all are saying. I can tell you, your staff, this has started roughly 2017, the real shootings, and your staff has gone through these losses each and every year and each and every time and feel similar feelings that y'all are having now. I had lunch with a 15-year-old accused of murder yesterday, having those conversations. So we're doing what you're talking about. We've already done that. Your staff has that.
See, Clay.
If I may, what I'm trying to say is you have staff that has had those meetings, that has some ideas. We are actually trying to do some things, as Commissioner Johnson's talking about. We spent, Crystal's going to be bringing to you, the PIO from the police is going to be reaching out to Crystal to see what we can publish and talk about what we've been doing in this week. We've been trying to address this for a couple of years now. We've been trying to address it this week. I feel like I need to let you all know, and I need to maybe speak to Dr. Wilson and Ms. Frazier, if it's possible to do in some kind of executive session. There are things that I want to be able to tell you all that I can't share publicly of what we're doing because it would give it away. But if you knew what we were doing, you might be, first of all, happy to know that these efforts are underway. It is a lot of collaboration with the police, with the sheriff, with everybody to try to get some of this work done. Also on the preventative side, trying to work with the school system on the prevention side to come at it both directions. It is your staff that's doing the work, and you might have ideas, and you certainly have resources that you could assist us with. We're doing as much as we can with the resources we have. But you might actually be surprised to know all that's going on. So if there were a way to meet with you all, you know, I understand public meetings laws. As soon as I think I get 3 of you, we got to have, you know, open meeting. But to be able to share with you what's going on in a way that can be kept confidential, you might be surprised to know.
Right. But my specific ask was, and kudos to what you're doing and the staff, you know, you always have my full support and whatever I can do to support juvenile detention. But what I'm trying to figure is, how can the community have a conversation? People who care, not necessarily from a staff and policy perspective. And again, if it's not allowed, if you just want to say, hey, we can't do that, let me know. But I know a couple of folks, men and women, who have been that way, who've been down that road, and I've always been taught, you know, folks who've been over that bridge before can tell you it's out. They can tell you the bridge is out up there, and I think that conversation, what I've heard is that conversation has not been had, because what typically happens is, from a policy and an elected and a official capacity, is the concept has been, let's set up and let them come to us. Because I came to the meeting at Winfield, and it was great. It was great. But Commissioner Gage Watch is right. The folks who need to be there were not there, and they're never going to be there. And so I think we need to figure out a way how to sit down and talk to those young folks.
We could set that up. You certainly, I think,
Okay.
in your position would have access to do that. I am saying your staff has done it. We have brought in, I mean, just like you're saying, we brought in people that have done 30 years in state penitentiary and gotten out and want to speak to the young people. I'm sure y'all know Terrence Wynn, for example. I mean, we've brought folks in and we've had meetings with them. We've had them come in.
Okay.
And we spent a lot of time brainstorming. We've got some ideas. If y'all are wanting to know what we're doing and what we propose, we've got staff that's been doing this for 35 years that have some ideas.
Well, I'll be reaching out to you to come over. I'll be over there next week.
Okay.
Thank you, Clay.
And that's what the committee is doing also, right?
Your committee meeting on the 18th, I mean, we can share that, but I would just turn for the advice on how we might be able to do this in a confidential way.
I'm referring to the Citizens Advisory Committee. Some of the same issues is what they're looking at.
They're coming up with ideas, again, from both angles. They're looking at the potential for more detention, more probation, but also prevention. They want to come at it from a law enforcement side and from a prevention side. So a lot of that is the proposal. It does unfortunately take some more money, so that's part of what they're also looking at, is examining how we can do it either with the resources we have, or might we need more resources. They're going to bring the whole set of options, and then you all, obviously as the policy makers, will decide.
Well, I'll be reaching out to you next week to try to set something up.
Okay.
And please let the staff know and everybody involved know I appreciate their work. I echo what has been said before. You know, we can't put the blame on folks who are trying to fix the problem, and we can't continue to put the expectations or unrealistic expectations on the folks who've been tasked with trying to fix the problem. So if you haven't heard it in a while, thank you. Okay, so appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, President.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Jackson. Vice President Burrell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I pray quite often over the years that my sons would grow up and at least get to 18 or 20 years old, to be out of that, hopefully be out of that area where they would be more responsible and not get involved in a lot of this. It's been a burden. I had 3 sons, and it's weighed on me until they've gotten grown that they would not make it to see a 18th birthday. So I can understand a lot of what is going on, because we live it every day. There's a political saying now that says that guns do not kill, people do. That's true. I'm a Second Amendment supporter all the way around. I grew up with guns in every corner. But it was interesting. I was sitting at a car wash on Greenwood Road, and the owner of the car wash said, "Mr. Burrell," he said, I don't know what we're going to do. He said, when I watch some of these cars, especially some that's coming out of Texas, they wind up popping the trunk, and the trunk is full of guns. He said they are full of guns. And I couldn't even fathom that in my head, that you would have these cars with a cache of guns in the back of the truck, back of the cars. There gotta be somewhere that we can control some of this. We have more guns in America. You've heard these statistics, than we have people. I agree, guns do not kill, people do. But if you got so many of them there and they get in the wrong hands, you're gonna have that kind of situation. So no, I don't have any solution. All I can do is just guard my own and try to keep them out of trouble and hopefully in an environment that they will have a chance to grow up. But this situation is very serious, and it affects all of us. That's the whole thing. You can't build a wall between me and your house anymore. So, you know, you may be riding down the street and it happens. So we're all in this boat. There is no particular point, you know, on this boat that you can't pull the plug and we don't all go under. So I think we should all be concerned about this. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Commissioner Burrell. Commissioner Johnson?
Yes, Dr. Wilson, I would like to have those meetings maybe tomorrow, if possible, small groups with Clay and what they're doing. If it can't be done tomorrow, then, Mr. President, I would ask that you would do an emergency meeting, that we have an executive session for that purpose. Because this is almost a time bomb waiting to go off. The days are getting longer. It's finna get warm outside. And we know that as it gets warm, approach summertime, crime goes up, homicides go up. So time is of matter on this situation. And I don't want to wait 2 weeks to come back and then try to figure out something else, and then it takes a whole week. Now we're down to a month and a half before we really react. By that time, who knows how many children will be lost. So I want to make sure that we do this time sensitive. If we can do them Friday, tomorrow, that's wonderful. If not, we want to have an emergency meeting that we can sit down and find out what he's trying to do, so we can try to put something together to work along with them and to try to be ahead of the game instead of behind it.
Well, I'll defer to Dr. Wilson and you, Commissioner Johnson, on trying to coordinate that with Director Walker as well. And if we can do them in small groups, fine. If we need to do an emergency session, if it can be done in an executive session, we can do that early next week.
I can say just very briefly, I can certainly start the ball rolling tomorrow. I got to get the judges okay, and the attorneys representing each child would have to okay that. I don't think it would be a problem, but I imagine we'd get it done by Monday or Tuesday of next week.
And what do you envision? What is it that you're envisioning?
If you're talking about a group of commissioners meeting with some of the children in detention.
No, I'm talking about the things that you guys are doing that you said that you need to get clearance from them. Yeah. But I want to make that happen as soon as possible.
We can do that today or tomorrow, whatever you need.
As soon as we get a clearance on the meeting, we're good to go.
As soon as we have a clearance from what?
That's what we're able to meet as soon as you all schedule a meeting. I'm quite sure. I don't know how many commissioners want to be there.
Would you like to do those? Would you like to do those? Do those need to be in person, or would you like to schedule some? I mean, for a meeting like that, this doesn't sound like a public meeting.
It's not a public.
Am I correct? So as long as it's not a public meeting, I mean, we could set something up on Donna. Donna, I see us.
It's not going to be an appropriate subject for an executive session. My recommendation is that if anybody's interested in getting this information from Clay, that you call him directly, because we don't do quote unquote small meetings to not have a public meeting. That's not what we do. So if you need that information, call him directly and get it from him.
Clay, I think the commissioners that will be interested will be calling you tomorrow, so you can set that up that way.
I've got an 8:30 till about 10 a.m. on one of the solutions we're working on, and after that, I'm available all day.
All right.
So after 10 tomorrow morning.
Anytime, I'll come to you, whatever you need.
All right.
11 o'clock, I'll be looking for you.
Yes, sir.
All right.
No, it's not gonna be.
I already texted you.
All right, so anyone who is interested in discussing these topics in more detail can reach out to Director Walker after Yes, at 10 o'clock, after 11 o'clock tomorrow morning.
As long as there's not 7 or more.
Right, we could do.
And again, you need to ensure that we don't have more than 7 or more in a group. Commissioner Jackson? All right. All right, so let's see. Communicate, so is that it on communiques and committee reports? All right. Out of respect.
I have just one quick, Mr. President.
Okay.
Just an update on where we are with the Ring doorbell applications.
Yes, ma'am. We have a draft of the application prepared. We were just waiting on logistics of how to get them installed, what time frame they would come in. Right now, we have a quote on the Ring doorbells. It would take us, it's our understanding that it would be a 3-week lead time to get those in. And considering that it would be hundreds of doorbells, it will take us time to get everyone scheduled to get them installed, but we are looking to have at least the application to go out. We didn't want to take the applications too far in advance, considering that it would be a wait to actually get them installed. But we do have an application drafted. We'll provide that. Just had some questions on some items that we want to go over with the administration and Commissioner Gage Watts, just to make sure we had the guidelines. But it is our intention to try to have this go out next week.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your diligence with this project. The citizens have been very patient, calling a lot, asking when we will be distributing the Ring doorbell. So I just wanted to give them a brief update on it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Gage Watts. Out of respect for everybody's time, we'll move into the public hearings. Commissioner Epperson? Okay, go ahead.
Okay.
Let's see, I want to make, okay, administration response to information request from commissioners also here, right?
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
sorry, I overlooked that.
Yeah, well, you know, I had, spoke Monday about the tax proposals that's on the ballot. It's the time to get that report now.
That'll be fine. Sorry about that. Dr. Wilson, didn't mean to overlook you.
Hey, no problem, sir. Good afternoon, commissioners. Commissioner Epperson, in respect to your request, and I think I had another commissioner also ask for the same thing. I placed at your stations the financials on what the yield would be for all the propositions that will be put forth before the citizens next month. You should have a one-page paper there. Yes, sir. That and also.
Could I hold you up a second?
Yes, sir.
Let me just set the stage. My reason for asking, okay? I know a number of you that's been here a while. You know, anytime that we have any kind of propositions, anything's on the ballot, I've asked Ms. Frazier, where Mr. Bernstein has come out in the community and explained them, be they state or local, as well as the parishes. So since we've had the pandemic, you know, coming in, we have not been meeting as such. However, you know, I did, once the parishes came out, I think we had some came out earlier, and I did go by teleconference to my people, and they were from the parish. And I think we had some state items, and I did the same thing with my people. And I think I had some administration on the telephone to explain it. So I just want to let you know, this hit me from the blind side. Nursing homes started calling me because they all look to it, me kind of explain the situation when they come up, you know, to parish issues. So this blindsided me. People call me, they under the impression that the parish put it on. But I told them, you know, I said, you got to read it now. They say parish-wide, that means, so that's not, we didn't put it on. So that's what I want to make sure that everyone understands. The parish did not put these propositions on. So I'd like for them to be explained here in this public venue, whereas they can look them up via the internet or whatever other means they have, and we can get an articulate interpretation as to what they are, and we can explain them to our constituents. Okay. So that being my reason.
Okay, I further understand what you want, Commissioner Epperson. I did look at the ballots
and all the propositions read pretty much the same. And as I tried to endeavor to get information on it, it was for general law enforcement. But as I have a clear understanding now of what you actually want. I don't have that today, but I will have it for you immediately.
Okay, you don't have what now?
No, see, you asked for an explanation on what's all the propositions were, right? Am I reading that right?
Right, and,
All the propositions are.
Don't we have the language?
Yeah, that's it.
Like, prop number 1, just want you to read it, and then the part that got me, some people say it's an increase. It says said millage to represent a 2/100th of a mill increase due to reappraisal over the 1.76 mil, which I'm assuming that's what's being collected now. So that will up it to 1.78 if I'm understanding right, which therefore the citizens interpret this as a tax increase.
Well,
they hadn't heard anything on the media, and they calling me and reference it almost like we trying to sneak something over on them.
Right.
That's my issue with it.
Yes, it's my understanding if you have a renewal that involves an increase of any type, it's a new issue. It's not a renewal.
Okay.
Am I wrong there, Erica?
In this, no, but
You need a microphone.
I have you can't hear me, I have a microphone.
You can't hear.
Get the other
I can barely hear Woody.
No, when you have millages that are changed, and again, these are not the parish millages, these are the sheriff's millages. So this is just what we're going off of, what our knowledge of on parish millages. But when you have a millage after reassessment, you can renew at the rate from the original ballot. If you had a millage that was 5 mills, and then after reassessment, for whatever reason, it became 4.9, when you renew, you can renew at the 5 mills. It is still a renewal. It is still considered a continuation of a millage. It is not a new millage. When you get a brand new tax that's proposed, it has to say a new millage. It can't say continuation, it can't say renewal. In this case, these are continuations of millages that they already have. The millages are used for any law enforcement expenses that the sheriff may have. It's general law enforcement, meaning that it can be used for any law enforcement expenses that they may have. The sales tax is being used for the Caddo Correctional Center. The property taxes are being used for the law enforcement expenses of the sheriff's office. That's our understanding of the millage. Obviously, if you want more detailed information, it probably would be best to have a representative of the sheriff's office these are their millages to explain this to the commission.
But if we are looking at, it said 0.200, that is, that makes it to 1.78, right? So which previously was 1.76, huh? In that first proposition, is that the way you interpret that?
In the first proposition, you had 1.76, but they're renewing at 1.78.
Mm-hmm.
And that should mean that the original millage was 1.78. But yes, they probably are currently assessing or had assessed, but when I looked at the 2021 assessment, they assessed 1.78 is what's listed on the assessment.
In 2001.
That's for 2021. I don't have the detail or haven't researched the detail prior to that.
Okay, well, I just, want to let people know that the parish didn't put this on here.
The parish did not put these millages, as Dr. Wilson stated to you on Monday. The sheriff is an elected official that can.
And I can't explain why they hadn't heard anything, I hadn't seen anything public on it. I don't know if anybody else has. I know when we put some on, we have signs out.
Yes, sir. The Parish Commission, that's our approach to doing business, but it's not the sheriff's approach to doing business. I received an email the other day talking about support the election for the millage for next month. But that was the extent of it. We haven't seen no signs. We haven't seen no advertisements or anything.
No, you say you received an email about this?
These,
sir.
These propositions?
Yes, sir.
Would you send me a copy?
I will.
And I think recently they've posted.
It was in the public journal.
Right, it was
Yes,
in
sir.
the public journal. I think recently they put out a video regarding it, these millages. So we would have to, again, it's the sheriff's office and how they've chosen, and what venues they've chosen, and how they've chosen to advertise their millages. We can't speak for how they've chosen to advertise those. I do believe we did receive an email in regards to it, but that was recently since you all brought that up. But yes, we did recently receive an email.
So you received an email after Monday?
Yes.
Is that what you're saying?
That's correct.
Okay, may I have a copy of that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's all I have.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Epperson. Let me just remind everyone that we're on page 2 of an 8-page agenda, and it's coming up on 5:30, so let's try to tighten things up a little bit. Commissioner Jackson?
Hey, Commissioner Atkins, I have one more. I haven't completed my report yet, sir.
Okay.
What?
You say, Commissioner Jackson, what do you got?
I mean, I do have a question on what we just discussed, though. So, I'm good. I just canceled my dinner plan, so I'm good.
Yes, I just.
Well, I don't know. Well, all the rest of us still have plans, says Commissioner
Well,
Jackson. All right, Commissioner,
Okay.
or Dr. Wilson.
Hey, yes, sir. I'll be brief, Commissioner Atkins. I'd like to acknowledge Ms. Darlene Cooper and Ms. Nita Mills' efforts for putting the lapel pins together for us. I do appreciate that. Also, we'll be featuring the Facebook Pulse of the Parish tomorrow, airing at noon on Facebook, and we'll be featuring him as Commissioner Stormy Gage watched this particular episode. And I was going to tell you, I did place at your station the financials that was requested relative to the election for proposal renewals next month with the sheriff at your stations, per your request. And that concludes my report, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Wilson. All right. Seeing Commissioner Jackson, are you back on the board?
Yes, sir. I shouldn't have been off.
All right, Commissioner Jackson.
Yes, thank you. Dr. Wilson, continuing on these propositions, I had requested on Monday a breakdown of the expenses.
Okay.
And what are they being used on? Like, just saying that it's used for general law enforcement purposes, like, what is that?
We can get their financials.
Okay, we'll ask the sheriff for that.
Yeah, I mean, what is that?
Yeah.
It's all a public record, so
Yes, sir.
I would like that. And then I did see where, and I want to make sure that I'm reading this wrong because I'm not a math major or accounting major. At best, I was a C student in math. I'm showing inside the city limits,
Right.
and this may be Erica and Haley who have to help me with this. Inside the city limits, is it looking like they're collecting about $10 to $11 million inside the city limits? Is that annually?
That's annually. Those are the 4 millages. Yeah, about 11 million total inside.
So about total about 11 million in property taxes, right?
That's just property taxes.
Okay. And outside the city limits, it looks like they're collecting somewhere in and around
6 or so without adding it up.
about 6 million-ish. So 11 million inside the city limits and about 6 million outside the city limits. And then there's an additional, am I reading this correct? The sales tax is bringing in about an additional 17 million? Or is that everything combined?
No, that's a separate sales tax.
So sales tax is about 17 million by itself.
Right.
Okay, so about 11, 6, and 17 is about
34 million.
about 30 plus million.
Yes.
About
annually.
34 million.
Okay, because I know there have been some calls about asking the sheriff to patrol inside the city limits, and there's been significant pushback about that. But as I read this, it seems, and for those people who call the city of Shreveport a sewer and a dump, it seems like the bulk of the sheriff's tax collections is coming from in the city limits of Shreveport. Property taxes. And sales taxes would be outside the city limits, right?
No, I think theirs is parish-wide.
Parish-wide.
Oh, it's parish-wide. So City of Shreveport is included in that as well.
That's my understanding. Is that correct? Is that correct, Erica?
Yes, parish-wide would include City of Shreveport.
Oh, okay. So, you know,
Which is different from ours. Ours does not.
ours is only in, okay, so.
Outside.
Gotcha. So I want to be clear on that. And then I would like to see that breakdown of the expenses on both the property tax millages as well as the sales tax millages on what those breakdowns are. And then I'm also concerned because I got a couple of calls about some folks got their early vote ballot, their absentee ballot, and asked why were we raising their taxes? Because the language here, when you get the ballot, the language says, and I'm not making this up, it says said millage to represent 2/100 of a mill increase. So are taxes gonna go up if this passes?
I think we would have to get the sheriff representatives to
Can't
answer those
that one.
questions.
Yeah,
As to,
we'll get the sheriff to step in. We'll have someone give us those data for you.
Okay, so if
Because
y'all
we
will
can't-
ask
we-
them,
Yeah, we can't answer
if
that.
y'all will ask if they anticipate taxes, or Charlie can answer that question, can't he? The tax assessor can answer this, right?
It should be.
Depends on what the sheriff adopts to actually assess.
Mhm.
Because he can have 1.78, but
Gotcha.
it says 1.76, and so until he makes that assessment, no, Charlie can't answer the question.
Okay, so, and that goes to my next question. The parish and the city, but the parish, when we've done these things, we've usually rolled back when we've anticipated an increase. We've historically rolled back
We've
our
never, yes, sir, never roll
millages,
forward.
well, so, it,
Typically adjusted to collect the same amount.
the
Right.
same amount.
right, but see, when you have an
Which essentially is
election,
a rollback,
when
right?
you
Right,
have an
that's
election before the next reassessment, you have to determine which rate you're gonna, so like if we roll back a millage and we don't have, and we have a reassessment before it's time to renew, that rate becomes your new rate permanently. In this case, reassessment is not till 2024. So you have to determine at that point what rate you would.
Right.
So that's what there's a
So
confusion, and I believe.
one person can determine if they're gonna raise everybody in Caddo Parish taxes if this passes.
We can't say that it's an increase. I hear what you're saying, but I
No, no,
can't,
I-
I can't speak to
Yes.
whether or not it's an increase or not, but.
Okay.
The answer to
'Cause-
your question is, he doesn't have a board. He's one person in it.
Thank you.
Looks in the mirror and consult himself.
Okay, that's what I'm trying to get to, because I'm trying to get some things on the
All right,
record here.
is that it, Commissioner Jackson?
No.
Did you get your
He-
question
Ken
answered?
had an opportunity to ask all his questions without it being rushed. I need to get through mine.
I think this is your third time up, isn't it, in this?
No, I ain't asked the question yet on this.
You spoke at length with Director Walker, but go ahead, continue on.
That was
I
on
think
something
you've
they
got
was talking
another
about.
minute or so on your time.
That was on something they was talking about. But what I'm getting to is, there has been complete silence. And when folks call me saying that the parish commission is raising their taxes, this is 2, 4, 6, 8, or 10, 1/10 of a percent. Nobody's talking about that. And so I think we need to educate our citizens on what they're going to be going out there voting on. And there needs to be some significant discussion about this, because the blowback is going to be on us when we get ready to do our renewal in the fall. A lot of y'all not understanding the domino effect that this is going to have in the fall. Because folks are going to say, well, y'all just raised our taxes in the spring. Why should we renew another tax in the fall when y'all just raised our taxes in the spring? So we need to be careful. And a lot of people aren't thinking about this. But don't we have a renewal on the ballot in the fall?
Yeah, fine.
Okay, so, people are gonna be looking at this. And I think we need to make sure that folks understand that this is not the parish commission, this is not the Shreveport City Council that is levying this tax or possibly raising your taxes. Because this has the potential to raise taxes. And the citizens of Shreveport often tell me that they want to see more Caddo Parish sheriffs patrolling inside the city limits. And from looking at this, they are contributing to the bulk of these costs. Then I also would like to see from this one that talks about CCC, I'd like to see a breakdown of expenses from this one. Because we're paying for a lot of stuff at CCC that I think is negotiable. There are some things by statute that we have to pay for, but there are some things that we're not required to. And the sheriff should either be reimbursing us or paying it themselves out of this $17 million annually. But some of that stuff is not our obligation, and I think this body should want to know that. They want to know everything else, but this body should want to know, what have we spent? What is this $17 million being spent on, and what are we covering that we are not by law required to cover over there at CCC? That's an issue for me. And for those of us who claim to be fiscal stewards, should be concerned. Thank you.
Okay.
Can I have that for the next work session?
Yes, sir, we will endeavor to get it.
Thank you, appreciate it, thank you.
We had to go to the sheriff's department and get that information you asked for.
Gotcha, well, I would appreciate if y'all would make that request for me. Thank you.
Okay, let's move on to public hearings, Mr. Clerk.
Okay, would you like me to go ahead and read all of the items available for public hearing, and you can open one that addresses everything?
Yes, please.
And just as a reminder, we did have those two different versions of the agenda. I'm going to read it in the version that was the primary version, and I'm going to read it in that order, if that's okay.
The approved expanded agenda item.
Correct. This is the version that you approved and expanded. Okay. The first item, public hearing for ordinance number 6193 of 2022. That's an ordinance creating the I-49 North Corridor Economic Development District, the state of Louisiana, defining the boundaries thereof, from which area local sales tax, property tax, and hotel occupancy tax increments will be determined and used to finance economic development projects in accordance with and as authorized by Part 2 of Chapter 27 of Title 33 of the Louisiana Revised Statutes of 1950 as amended, and providing for other matters in connection with the foregoing. The next item is a public hearing for ordinance number 6194 of 2022. That's an ordinance to accept the streets in Old Town Subdivision Unit Number 1 into the Parish of Caddo road system and to otherwise provide with respect thereto. The next item is a public hearing for ordinance number 6195 of 2022. That's an ordinance to accept the streets in Blanchard Lake Estates Unit 4 into the Parish of Caddo road system and to otherwise provide with respect thereto. The next item is a public hearing for ordinance number 6196 of 2022, an ordinance amending the budget of estimated revenues for the American Rescue Plan Fund to provide an appropriation for juvenile center in Caddo Parish and otherwise provide with respect thereto. The next item is a public hearing for ordinance number 6197 of 2022. That's an ordinance amending the budget of estimated revenues and expenditures for the Riverboat Fund to appropriate funds for the Caddo Parks Grab and Go feeding program and to otherwise provide with respect thereto. The next item is a public hearing for ordinance number 6198 of 2022. That's an ordinance amending the budget of estimated revenues and expenditures for the Riverboat Fund for the year 2022 to provide an additional appropriation of $15,000 for Robinson's Rescue and otherwise provide with respect thereto. The next item is a public hearing for ordinance number 6199 of 2022. That's an ordinance amending the budget of estimated revenues and expenditures for the Riverboat Fund for the year 2022 to provide an appropriation for ballistic vests for Shreveport and Caddo Parish fire districts and otherwise provide with respect thereto. The next item is a public hearing for ordinance number 6200 of 2022. That's an ordinance to establish a temporary planning and zoning commission to provide for its membership, to provide for an effective date, and to otherwise provide with respect thereto. The next item is a public hearing for ordinance number 6202 of 2022. That's an ordinance to authorize the administrator to execute an previous servitude of passage and right to use over parish property located in southwestern quarter section 28, township 22 north, range 16 west, and otherwise provide with respect thereto. The final item in this section is a public hearing for ordinance number 6203 of 2022. That's an ordinance to authorize the administrator to execute an easement and right-of-way agreement with Caddo Gathering LLC regarding a pipeline through and under parish property located in Section 7, Township 18 North, Range 15 West, Caddo Parish, Louisiana, and otherwise provide with respect thereto.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. That's quite a number of items you read through. We appreciate your effort there. And I'd like to open up the chamber for public hearings on any of these matters from 6192 through to 6203. Is there anyone in the chamber who would like to comment on any of these items in this public hearing?
Only person eligible is Lucas.
Seeing no one, public hearing is now closed. Thank you, Mr. Clerk. We can move on.
Okay, that brings us, we have no final passage zoning ordinances on the agenda today, so we'll move forward to ordinances for final passage, where the first item is going to be ordinance to be considered as ordinance number 6193 of 2022. That's an ordinance creating the I-49 North Corridor Economic Development District in the state of Louisiana, defining the boundaries thereof, from which area local sales tax, property tax, and hotel occupancy tax increments
I
will be
move to
determined and
englobo and adopt ordinances 6193, 6194, 6195, 6196, 6197, 6198, 6199, 6200, 6202, and 6203 of 2022.
Second.
Okay, so we had an ordinance to englobo and adopt the various ordinances mentioned by Commissioner John Paul Young, with the second by Commissioner Stormy Gage Watts. John Paul, would you like to comment on this? I see Commissioner Gage Watts is on the board.
I was on to move to englobo those items, but I had some more to go.
Okay. Commissioner Jackson, was that, you're on the board?
Yes. Is this one of these with the one stop?
Mm-hmm.
Which one is that?
The one for the juvenile center
61
is ordinance 6196.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would like to, I'm okay with the englobo, but I would like to add an amendment that the organizations involved would need to be registered and participating with a coordinated care system, as well as Caddo Community Action Agency participate with this. It's like a 211, that type of stuff. If there's a second, or I don't know if that's a friendly amendment or what, or if I need a second for it.
I'll look to the author. Well, I came out of the American Rescue Plan Committee.
I'll second it.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have a friendly amendment.
So yeah, that's it.
All right,
That's the only
so,
amendment I have.
so we have a friendly amendment to make the stated adjustment to 6196.
Yeah.
It's a friendly amendment.
Yeah, and then I have another, I do have another amendment on the temporary zoning and planning, that it could automatically renew if we do not have the resolution, or if it's not resolved or whatever by June 30th, 2022.
I look to the author of that proposed legislation. Is that
Too low.
Yeah, I mean,
Commissioner
that's the deal. We will never end up with the situation we're in now. So if things are not in place, then we would,
Right.
it would extend the time.
So
So he just wanted to have that in writing instead of.
Yeah, because I don't see it. I can speak to the motion.
Okay.
Huh? Yeah, so I mean,
Yeah. I just didn't see it here, and I just want to make sure that we have an understanding, so there's no gray area if we get to June 30th and we haven't come to a resolution. My hope is we will have come to a resolution by the end. I think I don't have a problem with this here at this particular moment, but as long as we have that language in there that gives us just some flexibility and we don't box ourselves into a hard June 30th deadline, that's all. I want to make sure that we don't find ourselves in this situation again. But I'm good with it. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. President.
I couldn't hear that, Commissioner Jackson.
No, I just said I hope we don't box. I'm just trying to make sure we don't box ourselves into a hard deadline. That's all.
Okay. It looks like that's also an accepted friendly amendment.
Yeah.
Just for clarity, can somebody make sure that I understand? I understand that it would renew on the date that it's set to expire if there's no other solution in place. But for how long are we proposing it renewed?
I guess the same amount of time.
Until a resolution is in place.
Yeah, until a resolution is had. It will be temporary until a resolution is created.
Okay. Commissioner Epperson?
That's it for me.
This is of the administration. Dr. Wilson, you had submitted a letter March 1st, 2021, submitting 3 options, and I think the administration had recommended option 2. Could you differentiate between option 2 that you had recommended at that point in time versus what we
They said take the mic.
I can't hardly hear you, sir.
I'm sorry. Dr. Wilson, you submitted a letter to us on March 1st, 2021, giving 3 options relative to the MPC board, and you said the administration would recommend option 2, and I want you to differentiate between option 2 and what we'll be addressing today, this 6200.
I'm at a slight disadvantage, Commissioner Epperson. I don't have the document in front of me. Do you have it, sir?
Pardon?
I don't have that document in front of me. Okay. I don't know what my option 1 was.
Well, I was gonna read the option 2, the one that you recommended.
Go ahead, sir.
And of course, you know, Mr. Coleman, you know, came down and spoke. Option 2, the Caddo Parish Commission could choose to contract this entire operation out to an independent source or with the City of Shreveport Metropolitan Planning Commission. The rationale for this option is that the Caddo Parish Commission can complete its revision of the current UDC zoning rules and hire an agency to enforce the provisions of the UDC ordinance. There are some advantages in contracting out the parish's MPC operation with Shreveport MPC. The cost savings would be based on the fact that the Shreveport MPC is already established and has the necessary personnel, equipment, and knowledge to perform the task. B, the administration would negotiate the service fee under an MOU or some other type of service contract. C, the volume of planning permits that we receive in the parish is very low, and most of the zoning work for the parish would be on the enforcement side. D, the Caddo Parish Commission would fund the Shreveport MPC at a level of $280,000, but this cost would more than likely be considerably cost more due to the increased parish-wide coverage. E, if a consensus cannot be reached with the Shreveport MPC, we would have to issue an RFP for a contractual service. F, if we enter into contract with the Shreveport MPC, we would not have to create a ZBA process.
That's correct. I still stand by my recommendation, sir.
Pardon?
I still stand by my recommendation in option 2. And also to go along with that, this board had already created a rural planning and zoning committee to take up these matters. And my recommendation was based on an enforcement mechanism. I would still suggest that we utilize the current MPC to carry out the enforcement aspect of whatever zoning matters that come before this board.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Epperson. All right, seeing no one else on the board, we have a motion and a second to englobo all of the ordinances for final passage, with 2 of them, with ordinance numbers 6196 and 6200 being adopting friendly resolutions from Commissioner Jackson. Amendments, thank you. I think we're ready for a vote, Mr. Clerk.
All right. And that motion passes unanimously with 11 in support and 1 absent, none in opposition. That brings us to the next section on your agenda, which is going to be the introduction of ordinances, and I will begin to read those into the record for introduction. The first item is introducing ordinance number 6204 of 2022. That's an ordinance proposing an amendment to the Caddo Parish Home Rule Charter relative to Section 3-07, Commission meetings and rules for presentation to the electorate, and otherwise providing with respect thereto. The next item is introducing ordinance number 6205 of 2022, an ordinance proposing an amendment to the Caddo Parish Home Rule Charter relative to Section 3-07, Commission meetings and rules for presentation to the electorate, and otherwise providing with respect thereto. The third item is to introduce ordinance number 6206 of 2022, an ordinance proposing an amendment to the Caddo Parish Home Rule Charter, deleting Section 5-05.2, Department of Fleet Services, for presentation to the electorate, and otherwise providing with respect thereto. The next item is to introduce ordinance number 6207 of 2022. That's an ordinance amending the budget of estimated revenues and expenditures for the Riverboat Fund to provide an appropriation for Friends in Unity and to otherwise provide with respect thereto. The next item is to introduce ordinance number 6208 of 2022. That's an ordinance amending the budget of estimated revenues and expenditures for the American Rescue Plan Fund for the year 2022 to provide an appropriation for a water line extension in Blanchard and to otherwise provide with respect thereto. The next item is to introduce ordinance number 6209 of 2022. That's an ordinance amending the budget of estimated revenues and expenditures for the Riverboat Fund to provide an appropriation of $20,000 for Louisiana urban gardening and otherwise provide with respect thereto. The next, and I'm sorry, that is the final item in that section. And that brings us to our next section, which is to adopt work session minutes, which are attached.
We have a motion from Commissioner Stormy Gage Watson, a second from Commissioner Burrell to adopt the work session minutes. May we, I don't see any, well, there's a comment from Commissioner Johnson.
Yeah, Mr. President, I want to englobe and adopt the work session minutes from February 28, Resolution 21, Resolution 22, and the appointment of Roger T. Casey to Caddo Parish Fire District Board number 1.
Second. You're not gonna include
And
the
the
last one?
appointment of James
Cardiston
to the Caddo Parish Broadband Committee.
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Johnson. We have a motion by Commissioner Johnson and a second by Commissioner Stormy Gage Watts to englobo and adopt the remainder of the agenda.
Englobo and adopt.
Any comments? Seeing none, let's vote, Mr. Clerk.
All right. Should be ready now.
Yes, sir.
And that motion carries with 11 in support, none in opposition, and 1 absent. That brings us to communiques and committee reports.
Anyone else with any closing communiques or committee reports? We'll welcome Commissioner Johnson former Commissioner Johnson to the chambers.
All right.
Good to see you, sir. Commissioner Jackson, do you have a communique?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Dr. Wilson, I sent y'all an email, and I'm not sure if it's been acted up on, but there's the light at Airport Drive and Market Street. It's just sitting at red, and so if y'all could get, I don't know who, I think Tim Weaver would be our person who interacts, if he could get with the city to do that, because folks are just, okay.
He sent me an email.
Okay, because folks are just trying to hop over Market Street, and you know, Market is a busy state highway, and they're trying to just cross over it, but the light just sits at red. The other thing, I heard you announce the, what is it, Post for the Parish?
Post for the Parish.
Is broadcasting tomorrow?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I got the email from Ronnie yesterday saying that have we sent that to Ronnie Coleman?
It's a Facebook posting. It's the function.
Okay. Can you come to the mic? Yeah.
So, Commissioner, that's one of the items that we're discussing at the joint committee meeting about getting those types of things that we usually stream on Facebook, seeing if we can get those things streamed through the public access channel as well. What the process needs to be to stream those.
Ronnie on his email said just send it to him. Did y'all get that?
Yes, so I think there was an issue with the type of streaming equipment that we use. So that's why we were meeting with the city to see what that breakdown in the streaming was. I know that's primarily for our meetings, but we were under the assumption when we talked to the city that we had to work together to get those things to Comcast. So I think that's the purpose of the joint meeting, to kind of flush out what the process is for getting those things to them.
So how are they getting that stuff to Comcast?
If I could add, Commissioner, we also received kind of conflicting answers from different parties involved in this. So that's why we wanted to kind of put it to this committee, because different parties who either have access to the channel or have something to do with the restreaming of it have provided different answers. And so to avoid some confusion between small conversations going on between small groups, we wanted to kind of put it in a setting where all parties could be around one table and figure out why or why not things were happening correctly.
So,
Also, I have my tech, the guys who run the equipment in the back. They haven't checked today to let me know if that thing exists that we can send that feed out. It's independent of what Jeff was talking about.
I see Kevin coming now.
Yeah, okay.
We are currently streaming to Channel 6 right now.
Okay.
And since it's been going on for, Charles has been taking care of that for years.
Yeah, and so Charles actually reached out to us earlier to confirm, he's got a monitor in there that shows that he's
Yeah, there's a TV in there that has an actual cable box that he puts it on the channel when he starts the meetings to make sure it's going, and it's going right
It's
now.
going there, but we.
Well, it wasn't on Monday.
That's
So-
what we're saying, it has, right.
Well, he's, okay, well, we'll have to dig into that, but he's on a cable box.
That's another conversation.
Right, yeah.
Okay.
So there are multiple layers of why
So,
this
yeah.
may be
If we could figure that out-
impacting some people and not
Maintenance
others.
is
So that's why we thought we'd sit everybody down at once and figure it
Well,
out.
if we can figure that out, because I think some of the content that we're putting out, if we push that out on that channel, and if we can also push some of our public announcements that we're doing, about announcing just certain events and certain activities, and, that's another platform. And Ronnie said, just send it to them, they would put it up there. And I know a lot of people depend on that channel. I know when I go to other cities,
Yeah, question.
and I'm flipping through the TV, you can see their public announcements and all that other stuff too. So
Yeah, I think we had a former Comcast employee doing that before, didn't we?
I don't know.
The community announcement with the church announcements and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What date, do y'all have the date set up for the meeting, Crystal, Jeff, Crystal?
Not yet. We will have those confirmed tomorrow, though.
Okay. And then
I'll
Jeff-
let you know.
Okay.
And I
then-
think there's a few other commissioners who've expressed an interest in not just that subject, but a few other subjects that are on that agenda. So I'll actually send out that date once it's confirmed to all commissioners.
Okay, and can you send the agenda out? Because I may need to put something on there too.
I can. I mean, the date will be confirmed first, and then the agenda will be confirmed. So that agenda would probably not be confirmed until Monday, but that's fine.
It's a
Or
secret
you can just
agenda?
send me what item you'd like to have added.
Is it
It's a little bit difficult than other committees because there's no actual chairperson of the committee.
Right.
So
I
I can send you what I have.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
That's what
No
I'm
problem.
saying.
No
And,
problem.
So it sounds like, Commissioner Jackson, sounds like you talk about two different things. One is this a meeting being screened out on Channel 6, and then you're talking now about community announcements being done on Channel 6. That's two different things, right?
What Ronnie said was he can put out whatever we send to him. That's what he said.
Yeah, I get that. Relative to the Caddo Parish business, not community, other stuff like what group is going to be doing what functions.
No, I'm talking about like stuff that we are doing. Like I think
Yeah,
Parks and
understand.
Recreation had
Yeah.
something going on, that type of stuff.
Okay.
Or I mean, if a commissioner, I would think that his cleanup could go on there.
Yeah.
For Saturday. I mean, that type of stuff the public needs to be aware of. That's how we're going to engage the public in what we do. So, that's what I'm talking about, pushing out parish information.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is that going to be problematic?
No, we just need to decide how we're going to get the job done.
Yeah, I mean,
Because either visual or textual type.
Yeah.
I don't know what it was in the past.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that we're getting the information out. And I got a call saying that our meetings weren't being streamed, so that
But we know that's not the case.
prompted me to go
Right.
to it
Right.
or whatnot. But it wasn't streamed on Monday for sure. So, yeah, if we could do that, I would appreciate it. And then thanks, Travis. He may be gone, but he's been taking care I guess he's been by himself working this week.
Calvin's back here.
Okay. Okay. So appreciate Travis for taking care of those 3 issues this week that we had to hit him up on. So thanks a lot. Appreciate you, Doc. That's it for me, Mr. President.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Jackson. Commissioner Chavez.
Thank you, President. Commissioners, I was going to wait to share this, but I was told that they okayed it. It's with a heavy heart that lets you guys know that we lost Councilman Fleury this afternoon. But there's no doubt in my mind that he heard, "Well done, good and faithful servant" today. He loved God and he loved people. So be praying for his family for strength. And I know we'll see him again. Thank you, President.
Thank you, Commissioner Chavez. Thank you for letting us know that and for honoring Councilman Fleury in that way. Commissioner Jones.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. President. Also want to thank Animal Services for a very rapid response yesterday, situation we had going on. So thank you for making sure we got that taken care of. Want to tell you that publicly. And also, Dr. Wilson, my favorite subject this week is our street racing, drag racing club that they are starting back up. We've got more information on that. Apparently, they are organizing a pot, so there's illegal gambling going on Parish streets. There's also going to be food trucks set up at the next race. The person who's, I guess, over this entire operation is telling everybody to bring empty bellies to the best race. There's going to be multiple food trucks at every race from here on out. So they got a racing season planned, okay? And then this Saturday, she's organized her own community cleanup on GM Boulevard from 12 p.m. to 3 p.m. This March 5th. They're going to be cleaning up their racing area to make sure that they don't have any debris in the way of the drag racing that they're doing illegally. I'm so excited that they want to clean up the streets of Caddo Parish, but they cannot race on them. Right. So I don't.
That sounds bizarre to me.
Here again, this was all a shell game from the beginning. I don't even think you actually had a real representative from the Discovery Channel request that permit, because I saw a video, and I'm going to get it sent to you.
Yes, sir.
There's one signal light out there. There's one signal light that they bring out, and it's whenever the light flashes green, you can go. There are no production lights. There are no production trucks. So this is all a shell game for them to not have to go and lease the racetrack up in Gillum, which is there for that. If they would pay their bills, which is what got them in this predicament in the first place. Be responsible, pay your bills. You can use the track for whatever you need it for, and you'll be fine. But that's got to be dipped in the book, because they're operating as if they're going to be able to do what they want to do. They're going to use parish deputies to do security. I mean, we got taxpayer dollars being planned to be used to carry out this operation. So I got that information, that update while we were sitting here, so I'm glad I was able to get back on. I just wanted you to know that that's going on. Starting this Saturday, they're having to clean up at noon to clean up that area so they can race it. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Commissioner Jones. Commissioner Epperson.
Dr. Wilson. Dr. Wilson. Is that so?
Pardon me?
What Commissioner Jones just stated.
Are
they going to be racing on General Motors Boulevard on
not
Anton
if we
Boulevard
can,
this weekend?
No, sir. Not if we can help it.
Okay, who gave the permit for the one last week?
Well, that's why I was asking Attorney Frazier, how was that process handled?
Yeah.
Well, I need to find out, but apparently legal didn't give a permit. We'll find out.
I didn't hear you.
You're
going to find out?
Yes,
but
sir.
There will be no racing on Anton Boulevard.
That's correct.
Am I correct?
That's correct.
Okay. All right. And just to refresh your memory, you remember the riding club on private land?
Yes.
The people owned 60 acres, would have been off of the street. No problem with the parish whatsoever.
Right.
They had to do a plat. They had to have portalets. They had to get a permit.
Right. Which they did get. Right.
Okay.
Okay.
So no racing. Okay. If you would, Timberline and Deer Creek Estates will hold our annual spring cleanup Friday the 8th and Saturday the 9th of April. And if we might get the trash bin that they place at the intersection of Greenwood and Calderwood, and if they could get it in place, by 4 p.m. that Friday.
Is it April
And-
9th and what else?
Sir?
Is it April 9th?
April the 8th and 9th. Okay. And I'd like to give Mr. Wesley, I was looking at the owners of the property that's adjacent and contiguous to Pinchback Park. Remember I'd asked you about maybe if we can get a community center put up there, we could draw the people together. And I noticed a nice piece of property that's abutting and just sitting there is owned by the school board. And maybe they'll be gracious enough just to donate that toward the community.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'll have
so
Ms. Wesley get
if we
with
can
you on
look at that, we spending money with everything else, so, you know, let's do something where the citizen can have more convenience, you know. We can extend that park a little bit, we can have a place where they can sit down and hold community meetings when they hold the family reunions, have a place in there where they could prepare meals from being outdoors, you know. And you look at the population around that area, it's not a whole lot of childbearing people that's building up in that area now, you know what I mean? We're looking at basketball courts and merry-go-rounds and all that stuff. These seem to be retired, settled people that's moving in that area, and it's growing pretty good up and down that Jefferson Page Road. Clean up the Highway 80 past the Road Center. Nice big home, but they retired people, no longer childbearing. So I'd like for us to look at that. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Harperson. Commissioner Clerk, you're on the board.
I am not intentionally on the board, and for some reason it will not clear off.
Okay. So we have the last items is citizens' comments, late arrivals. Do we have anyone?
I've not received any.
Louis, you got something to say? Move to adjourn.
All right, motion by Commissioner Jackson, second by Commissioner Jones. We're adjourned.